get around and get to their schools safely, and not just kids, but everyone who's walking, strolling, or rolling, or driving around. Everyone needs to be able to be safe on our streets. We can make infrastructure changes and enforcement changes to make that happen. Thank you.
Darren Lemorande, your top 2 priorities, and how would you enforce them?
Thank you. My top priority, obviously, is to preserve Littleton. I really feel fortunate to be able to live in this city, and quite frankly, my big priority is to maintain the small town feel that it has, the friendly feel, the people all get along, chip in. Like tonight, for example, the turnout we've had here. There's a lot of people that are concerned and invested in this community, and my top priority is to support them and make sure that their needs are spoken for. Next would be public safety, I would say. I grew up in a pretty unique position on that. My dad was a policeman, my mom was a nurse. We would sit around the dinner table and I could see firsthand what bad governance would do and how that affected people on a day-to-day life. And I really think there's different things we can do. In fact, I've gone around and met with a few business owners already in town here. And when I went to meet with one in the morning, there was a homeless person sleeping on his front doorstep. And quite frankly, he had to have an argument with the guy to get in. I think that's a big area where we have stuff creeping in from Denver. We need to give our police officers the support, and we need them to be able to do their job and work on these problems. I know they have the support of City Council and the citizens. Those would be my biggest things. The support is really the biggest thing, and their funding and their training. And the mental health is a big issue as well that we're working on. I know we've taken steps in that direction already, but I think we need to improve upon those and build on the foundations we already have.
Thank you. Merrill Stillwell.
Thank you. I see 2 key areas in safety we need to improve. The first, safe streets. The second, better enforcement in a bunch of key areas where we're having a lot of crime right now. Within safe streets, it kind of breaks my heart. I continue to hear areas that are just trouble intersections or crosswalks, like at Berry and Lowell, in between 2 schools, Goddard and Centennial. We have a kid that got hit there this year, and then a legally blind woman that was also hit. It's just not designed well, and we're not getting police enforcement in these areas. We have drag racing on Bowles, where a lot of people in this room live right now. We really need to make it safer for people to get around our city. And second, we have major security issues or safety issues around Littleton Boulevard and Stern Park, and then again at like Santa Fe and Bellevue. The residents there have major crime problems, and many of them have created neighborhood watch groups just to report stuff to each other or keep their eyes on their own homes. I don't want that to be necessary for these people to constantly be worried about their safety. We really need to enforce our current rules in these areas and put police where they need to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Amanda Henderson.
So I think aligned with many of the folks here, putting more time and energy into the Safe Streets program, especially the work that's happening along Eladi Corridor. In District 3, I think that is the most dangerous street in District 3, and we can address that through design changes, through enforcing speeding, through supporting the community to drive slower in that area. So I think that needs to speed along and have the support that it needs to make those changes. Second is kind of a different angle. In my experience and the research that I've read, the thing that reduces crime the most and makes us the most safe is when we know our neighbors. And the more connected we are, the more, and people start neighborhood watch groups, really, it's a way to get to know your neighbors. And when you know the people around you and you're watching out for other people, we are safer in the ways that we behave, and we are watching out for one another when those needs arise. So in that way, I will invest in opportunities to form deeper connections in our neighborhoods and our communities. Many of us were a part of the Longer Tables initiative among the steering committee to keep that going and think about how to bring that to more neighborhoods. Because when we know each other, we are safer.
Thank you. And last, or not last, but Curt Samuelson.
I'm an alumni of the Littleton Police Citizens Academy. went through the Citizens Academy and learned all about the police department and all that they do. I would recommend that to anyone in the community to see what the police do. We help support all that they do. And I do believe we need more officers, although we are adding officers. We met with 2 new officers at the end of last month, and it's very encouraging to see officers in the neighborhood. I organized my neighborhood night out in my neighborhood for 15 years. That's a prerequisite to the neighborhood watch program. I did that for 15 years. We worked with our community to try to build a neighborhood watch, and I think that's very important. Like Amanda mentioned, it's important that we police ourselves. The police officers can't do everything on their own, and I think it's so important. We need enforcement, but we need neighbors looking out and making those decisions and helping the police officers along the way. The citizens can do so much more with just their neighbors. Watch out for your neighbors, meet with your neighbors, talk to the neighbors. It's such an important part of what we do.
Thank you. And let's go over to our mayoral candidates. I'll repeat the question. What are your top 2 priorities for improving safety in Littleton? And how would you accomplish them? And we'll start with Patrick Driscoll.
Can I ask a favor? Can we have everybody come in the room that are standing in the back there that can maybe go to the side so they can at least come in? I see some... Oh, gotcha. Okay. I just want to see if that was an option. A fire code.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Well, I want to do what all these people want to do. I think they're all great suggestions, right? They all got that from me. No. But, so I'm going to shake it up a little bit because, of course, I start off my opening comments with, better streets. And not just better streets. I'm going to really press the city manager and our public works director to actually have a year and a quarter in that year when their streets will be paved. Right now, if you go on our paving schedule, it's out 3 years. It could be this year your street might get paved, or it might be in 3 years. So I really think that's important that we get more granular with our paving schedule. I also want to talk a little bit about economic development. We right now are on rocket fuel. We have so many projects going on, and I want to continue working with our economic development team to not just sort of rest on our laurels, but let's continue to look out for good businesses to come to Littleton. We run on sales tax, as most of you know. 80% is what we depend on. I would look to South Park, one of those huge economic drivers of Littleton. I'd look to create a share-back program with Costco coming in there and with some another big box store. I think we got to give some love back to South Park. So those are just a couple ideas that I'd like to bring my first couple months of mayor.
Thank you. Kyle Schlachter.
Can I just clarify the question was about improving safety?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. First off, everyone said everything here first. I think making sure our first responders are supported and well funded. I'm glad City Council voted 5-1 of this week, Tuesday this week, to support our firefighters in their property tax ballot question. And I'm happy that the firefighters have also endorsed me as their favorite for their mayor candidate. Second thing would be improving street safety. I think that goes with slowing traffic. We all drive in our streets. I got kids that walk to school, bike to school every single day. I actually acted as the guest celebrity crossing guard at Little Raven Elementary this year. Council had the opportunity to participate in that, and I was one of 2 council members to take up on that opportunity there. So it was great to see all the kids walking, crossing the street, seeing how fast cars go down Windermere. I live here close to Windermere, and it's important that we do things that we can slow that traffic down. We need to have more police officers. We need to have slower speed limits. I would love to see the city be 20 is plenty in our neighborhoods, to reduce the speed limit to 20 miles per hour in all of our residential neighborhoods. And we also need to look at redesigning the geometry and infrastructure of our streets so they are not wide, so people feel comfortable going 55 miles an hour down when they should be going 25 miles an hour. And that includes adding wider sidewalks and protected bike lanes for people that want to or need to walk and bike around town, that they feel safe as well, because not everyone can drive or is in a car. So those are my top 2 things for safety.
Thank you. And moving on to our next question, and we will begin with District 1 candidates. Mr. Lemorande, this is for you to begin. What would you do to help with homelessness in Littleton?
Unfortunately, homelessness is not just a Littleton problem. It's a nationwide problem that we're dealing with. I do think we're making great strides in Littleton to help with that as it stands. By having the mental health officers and such go out with the police officers and address the easier calls that they have where mental health and homelessness is a part of it. Most studies that come out have stated that the majority of the homeless problem is tied in with the drug problem. That seems to be a pretty standard thing that goes with it. And I think we need to work with our city and work with the people to get them, not just give them a home. I go with the old adage of teach a person to fish, don't just give them a fish. Teach them to fish so they can take care of themselves and move forward. So I think we really have a lot of different areas that we can work on that. And quite frankly, I think we need to, for the safety of them, stop some of the begging that's going on in the main medians. That's a huge safety problem as well. I think there's different things we can do to curb that other cities have done, and I think that'll help tie into keeping this a safer place.
All right, thank you. Merrill Stillwell.
Thank you. This is an issue that I'm really passionate about. My grandpa rang bells every year for Salvation Army to support the unhoused population, particularly those with substance abuse. My family, I've been doing it every year my whole life. And I'm currently working on a program with the South Metro Community Foundation working with foster youth. We saw a pretty horrifying statistic that was 38% of those kids locally end up homeless within 2 years of leaving the foster system. We're trying to connect them into housing and jobs and schooling to prevent that from happening. You know, that being said, this is a regional problem, and I think our city took the right approach by working in the Tri-Cities Homeless Initiative to set up a navigation center in Englewood. We can't take this on all on our own. And I'm excited, you know, that just opened. I'm hopeful that makes a major dent in this problem. And to safety, I am worried about the safety of those individuals and our own residents and the median and in our neighborhoods. I'd like to see better police enforcement to take care of everyone.
Amanda Henderson.
So this is something I've spent a lot of time on in my career. And here in Littleton, I facilitated a process bringing together city leaders, service providers, foundations, to look at the issues around homelessness in Littleton and to explore solutions together. And I am also really grateful for the Tri-Cities Homeless Initiative. They were also a part of that project to look at how can Littleton best support folks who are experiencing homelessness. Also the support that All Health Network provides and making sure that people have access to mental health care support and all the resources that they need. Next, I would argue that the only thing that fixes homelessness is housing. And here in Littleton, we have some new affordable housing coming on the line, and I'm really grateful for that. This is the first time that we've had new affordable housing coming on the line the past year compared to the past 30 years. So that's a big deal. And the more we can get people into shelter, the more they can rebuild their lives and find those connections and get the services that they need to be healthy and to be a part of our community. I think that criminalizing folks who are experiencing homelessness is not the path to go. I think we need to get people services, housing, support systems so that they can live the life as well. They have human dignity.
Curt Samuelson.
I think we're all in agreement on a lot of these things. The Tri-Cities Initiative is doing great work. They're just getting started, but I think that's going to help a lot to bring people off of the streets. We need to get them off the streets. We need to get them off of drugs and alcohol if that's possible. Through Englewood, Sheridan, Littleton coming together and working on that type of program. The All Health Network obviously is going to help. There's so many things that many of these have some other mental issues, many homeless people that have mental issues that they need some additional resources, and I think we can work on that together with the community. But a large number of the homeless people have some drug or alcohol or mental illness, and we need to work on all three of those and see what we can do to help them, move them out of where they're at and to a better life. for all of us.
Thank you. Pat Driscoll.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, the All Health Network is a great program in town. We're very fortunate to have that. And what we've done over the last maybe 4 years or so, we now have an employee from All Health Network drive with our police officer that if they get that call, somebody's having a mental breakdown or something like that, that individual can talk to that patient and or person and have a conversation, probably a little bit differently than what a police officer could do. You've heard the Tri-City Homelessness Initiative. That has been now in place for close to, let's see, I guess we had a ribbon cutting not too long ago, so a year and a half or so, about a year and a half, I'm guessing. And that was formed with Gretchen Wrighting's help, former council member. So that is a one-stop resource center for anybody experiencing homelessness. We also, it was also mentioned South Metro Housing. We're rolling out 50 units for affordable housing on Rapp Street, and then another project that will happen up on Littleton Boulevard down the road. So, there's a lot of things going right. Can we do more? Absolutely. I think we have to work with our neighbors to the north and south. And one thing I did do is I put together an ordinance that got voted down, unfortunately. It was regarding panhandling. It was really about protecting that person from stepping off the curb and getting hit by a car. So I hope to bring that back and get that passed. Thanks.
Kyle Schlachter.
Thank you. I wish I could have recorded and played back Amanda's answer because that was perfect. I think the two big things are continue working with our partners, Inglewood and Sheridan, with the Tri-Cities Homelessness Action Plan. That's a big step. We're doing a lot of good work with that. As people have said before, this is not just a Littleton issue, it's a regional issue, it's a state issue, and so we need to work together. We can't solve this by ourselves, so we need to put our resources together. And then, as Amanda said, the number one cause for homelessness is not being able to afford a home. It's been shown that drug abuse, mental health often follow homelessness, not precede it. Yes, the people that are experiencing homelessness now need those helps, we can get up to them. But if we can do things to address the affordability of homes in our community, that will go a long way to preventing future homelessness, because that's really also the second part of this. And so that's what we need to do, is make sure that we have enough homes that are in our community that people can afford them, that align with their income, and to be able to do that. So those are the two big things: provide services to those experiencing now with our partners and address housing affordability.
Thank you. David Carlton.
Thank you. I look at this from two angles. One is you have to look at the homelessness as far as juveniles and youth are concerned. One of the things that I know Arapahoe County has started is a diversion program, because a lot of times homeless children come from poverty, and it's a cycle. And if you have to throw the most amount of your resources to try to stop the cycle. And for example, what the diversion program does, because you talk about those that are on the street that are experiencing poverty, that usually follows with petty crimes. And a lot of times these kids are thrown into a system where they have a record. Diversion program that Arapahoe County recently started, and I think we as a city are starting to look at, and I would push for this dramatically, is for a diversion program where youth can go see a panel before they see a judge and have a sentence. And they can have that sentence deferred if they follow up with the program and the corrective actions that are offered by the board. They can stop the cycle. The other thing I feel that a lot of the homelessness that's driven from here, it does come from other cities. It's a national issue. It's not as bad in Littleton, but you are seeing it increase, so we need to attack it. It does, in my opinion, stem from a lot of times from drugs, and also, as I said, with the poverty. And so you have to have enforcement. I would like to see the efforts of, when you have somebody standing in the middle of a median with cars rushing by at 50 miles an hour, that's dangerous for everybody, especially the person standing there. So I would like to address that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Joel Zink.
Thank you. I, at the DA's office, am one of the people who approves people to be able to go into diversion, so I'm really glad that was mentioned. That is a really important program that we have. We also already do have it in the city at the municipal level. We have a diversion program. It's continuing to grow. Honestly, a ton of great answers here. It sounds like, if we all got together on a council, for instance, we might be able to find some good solutions. We're not going to be able to solve homelessness. It is always going to be a problem, but we can take important steps. One of the things that I was happy to hear about was our co-responder program. To be a little bit more specific about what this is, it's an opportunity for mental health and addiction professionals to ride along like shotgun with a cop. And when somebody's going through a mental health crisis, often co-occurring with addiction issues, the mental health professional and addiction counselor is right there with the police officer. So that means that the professional is protected in case something goes wrong, and that the individual is going to have opportunities to get treatment. I mean, it's not just treatment, it's about wraparound services. So it's about getting transportation and training for jobs. It's about, getting housing opportunities and figuring out, okay, well, are there voucher programs that I can be a part of? I'm actually a part of the Region 9 Opioid Abatement Council in Arapahoe County, which is a council that is in charge of distributing money from large settlements from opioid manufacturers. I'm advocating right now to expand our co-responder program in Arapahoe County so that it can happen not just during business hours, but after hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will start with District 3 candidates, and that question is, what changes in the current city land use code would you support to encourage more affordable housing in Littleton?
All right, I'm the lucky winner on this one. I think Curt said he wanted to answer first. We didn't count my time. Okay, so the things that I think are really important as we start talking about land use, the hot issue here in Littleton, is that this needs to be a community conversation, and we need to keep talking because we clearly have issues with our housing affordability and making sure that people from different ages can downsize or get into housing here in Littleton. So something needs to be done. As I think about what I know on housing, I think there's some simple ways that we can allow people to use their own home and property in ways that are the best for their family, have the flexibility and the freedom to be able to address the needs of their family, whether that is a mother-in-law cottage, or some people have children who need to live at home as they grow older who would live in a cottage. I know my husband and I talk about building a cottage next to our house so our kids can buy our house one day. These are the kinds of things that people should be able to do on their property to meet the needs of their family. That is a small change that would have a small impact that would make a big difference in many people's lives.
Curt?
I served on the City Planning Commission for 10 years. I've been through our ULUC, Uniform Land Use Code. I think it's very confusing and very difficult to work with. Our previous zoning code was much easier to understand. I think we have a lot of work to do on this ULUC and make some changes to that. But as far as affordability goes, it's a problem all along the Front Range. I've been in the mortgage business for over 40 years. I help people every day, first-time home buyers, struggle to get into a home. I work with them to try to help them work out their budget so they can get into a home. Forcing multiple units on every lot in the city is not the way to go. That will cause more problems. The builders are licking their chops to tear down a $700,000 house and build 4 units for $1 million apiece. So that's not going to help anything. I think we need to allow for ADUs, which we did before City Council made a change. In the right areas, in parts of the city, there's plenty of that going on. There's a lot of apartments under construction right now in the city. There's over 3,000 units being constructed. We're going to see some improvement in affordability in housing, but the city cannot make housing affordable.
Thank you. Pat Driscoll.
Yeah, thank you. You got the two Q-tips on each end here that are mortgage brokers. What that means to you is we help people get into homes. This affordability word is thrown around so lightly, it drives me crazy. I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day. He says, you got to create affordability. I said, well, what does that mean to you? He didn't have an answer. And I ask yourself, what's affordable mean to you? Well, it's different for all of us. And so once I know your income and your assets and your liabilities and your credit, I can tell you what's affordable. So I'd like to educate people on the process of affordability. We have a great program in the state called CHFA, Colorado Housing Finance Authority, and they allow people to use up to 50% of their total income. That'd be their housing and their other liabilities towards owning a home. So I think affordability is available out there. I don't think people realize it. Number two, a little bit on why we're in this in the first place. We have a construction defect law that came into place back in 2002, and so builders have been building for rent. A lot of us, we used to buy a condo or a townhome, and we would then sell it, have a little equity, maybe move into a single-family home, sell that. So that's what when we created this rental world, these younger people haven't been able to do grow their equity like I was able to do. Thanks.
Kyle Schlachter.
I'll say I agree with Patrick that affordability is income aligned. The problem that we have here in Littleton is that we don't have enough housing that people that make less than 100% of the average median income here in Littleton can afford. So we need to do something. We can drive up wages. Council doesn't really have a whole lot of ability to do that, or we can take a look at a policy that allows us to look at how we can do housing. The good thing is that there is no current policy discussion right now on housing. The way this would work, and I don't have a plan or a solution to fix this here. The way this would work is when council wants to do a policy, we start a public conversation, have a public process. We did this with Ordinance 31. We had a discussion for over a year, and that ordinance did not force anything anywhere. It just allowed people the choices to do it. I will say that Ordinance 31, that public process, was terrible. We didn't do a good enough job. And so I think if the future council, this council coming forward, or 5 years from now, needs to do a much better job involving the community, hear what the community wants, what works with the community. And that's how we can figure out how we solve this problem in Littleton.
David Carlton.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a tough one. Early on in this process, I met with a home building group, and you submit your questions, and then they call you in for an interview. And I was pretty quickly dismissed as being someone that would be endorsed by this home building group. And to date, I've only received the one endorsement, and that's rooted in Littleton. The reason that is because I kept asking them. I realized over the last 2 decades, home building costs to build a home, the cost per square foot has doubled, and it's twice the rate, and inflation has increased pretty substantially in the last 2 decades as it is on its own. The reason for that is there are 2 inputs. There's the labor, which is short. There aren't a lot of people going into HVAC and building and framing and drywalling as there used to be. And then the inputs, lumber, drywall, roofing, everything has gone up by twice as much as inflation just in the last 20 years. So how do we solve that as a city council? There are incremental things we can do. We can make building easier. The reality of Littleton is it's a desirable place to live, and it's built out. That's exactly what the builders told me. We focus on Castle Rock and we focus on Greeley. They told me that outright. So the ADU, I think, is something we can look at again. I think it's a good solution for some families, relaxing some occupancy rules as long as the codes and the nature of the neighborhood remains intact. If you increase occupancy in single-family homes, you have multi-generations. A lot of people, as I knock on doors that I'm meeting, are doing that. And so those are just some things we can focus on to make incremental changes.
Thank you. Joel Zink.
Thank you. Housing affordability and attainability in Littleton is a problem. I'm going to start with what I'm not for. I'm not for any kind of one-size-fits-all approach or blanket approach as some folks might think of it. I think that what's good for one neighborhood isn't necessarily good for another neighborhood. So any approach that we do take needs to be measured and considered, needs to involve considerable, meaningful input from the folks in those neighborhoods who would be impacted, who would have to, see what's going on, and if it's something that they would want to be able to do. I also grew up in rural Pennsylvania and Wyoming, and I'm kind of like a freedom guy. So there's this other part of me that's like, well, I bought my house, I bought my land, I should be able to use it to whatever I think is the best and highest use of that land within reason and within the code. So not going to build a giant skyscraper next to my, neighbor's house or anything like that. But I think that we can find flexible solutions. We have in Littleton something called the Inclusive Housing Ordinance. That is a great tool that requires that new buildings, new apartment complexes, new developments have a certain number of affordable housing units. And that affordable means something. It's connected to AMI, which is area and median income. And so if somebody is making less than a certain degree of AMI, then they qualify to get one of those affordable housing units in a development. If a developer chooses not to build those units, they need to pay the city a fee in lieu. We can use that fee in lieu to help other programs like SMHO, affordable housing. Meadowwood is a great example of some creative solutions. Thank you.
Okay, Darren Lemorande.
I think to answer this question, we need to go back to why this is such a big issue. And the reason it is such a hot topic is because the past city council tried to pass what they called a verbiage change. That simple verbiage was single family to multifamily. That makes a huge difference. They talk about not wanting a blanket statement for the entire community. That's exactly what that would have been. And with most of our homeowners in this area, with the cost of homes, that's our biggest investment, and I think it's really important to protect that. There are a lot of different ways to address affordability for homes. Leveling a single-family home, putting a duplex or triplex up there is not an affordable way to do it. Your land cost alone is too high. In fact, I looked, there's not a single instance in Arapahoe or Jeffco County where they leveled a single-family home and the duplex, triplex, or quadplex was cheaper. In every scenario, it was more expensive. The construction defect law is a huge thing that has stopped development of our condos. That definitely needs to be addressed, and we need to look at that in its entirety. The workaround on that was, or what happened is contractors would have to warrant a home for up to 10 years for a commercial building. No contractor can do that, and then they get sued by 150 units or residents opposed to just one. So we need to address that and turn some of those condos back, or I'm sorry, apartments back into multifamily homes that people can purchase and start to build up their own family equity and wealth.
Merrill Stillwell.
Thank you. I am concerned about the cost of housing. It bums me out that my friends that grew up here or people that I interact with that worked in this community can't afford to live here. That being said, this is a regional problem. We're in a sea of affordability issues. I think the right path forward for Littleton is smart, responsible growth that we can all get behind. For some reference, I do not agree with the previous housing ordinance that we considered. I thought it went too far, and worst of all, I think the process just didn't work as well as it should. We didn't get the correct input from the community that we needed to make a good decision. And for other ideas on this ULUC, I worry we may have missed the boat a little. We still have a few open sites that are being redeveloped. We're getting apartments on those, which is okay, but I'm worried we could get a better result for ourselves by looking at more ownership opportunities, more housing geared towards seniors or families. I think that's what people want to see here in Littleton, and I'd like to encourage that type of growth in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to our next question, I'm going to reverse things just a little bit. We're going to start with District 1, but we'll start with Stillwell and then do Carlton, and then we'll do, did I say Carlton? Lemorande, sorry. My apologies. Then go to District 1, and we'll do Curt, and then Amanda, and then we'll come back over here and we'll make this up a little bit. Okay, question number 4, I guess this is. How should the city address parking and noise in the city of Littleton? Parking and noise.
And that's me that's answering this one?
That's you, yes.
Thank you. Parking and noise. These are things that I hear a lot as I'm walking around talking to neighbors. A lot of people will say, I can't find a parking spot on Main Street. And it is difficult to find, and I kind of want to find some common sense solutions to problems like that. On Main Street, we have parking available, but the pedestrian experience is just not good. When I park on the other side of Alamo, on the south side of Alamo, there's a lot of parking. It is not a good experience trying to take my girls and play Frogger crossing Alamo. I think we need to slow traffic around that area and to put better signage up. I don't think everyone knows Littleton residents can park in those RTD lots. we can find easier solutions to these problems. And to the noise issue, you know, that's something that we have in my neighborhood, and I continue to hear more and more issues about. We have these really loud drag racing that is going on in our community, and I think it's a major nuisance that everyone has to deal with. I would love to figure out enforcement of in those areas of traffic safety, and to try and figure out better ways to maintain that noise so everyone can sleep at night. Thanks.
Darren Lemorande.
Thank you. I'm sorry, would you mind repeating the question on that one, just so I can rethink my answer on that?
How should the city address parking and noise in Littleton?
So the parking issue, again, ties back to the housing issue. Again, with what the city was trying to pass, that would eliminate the need for parking on individual properties. So that would do nothing but increase the parking on our neighborhood streets as well as our downtown streets. Because with the ability to build a multifamily home, they were stripping away the need for parking on that property. I think there's a lot of different ways we can address the downtown parking. I've spoken with a lot of business owners down there. Quite frankly, they used to have agreements with the city to park in areas like Reinke Brothers, places like that. I met with Greg Reinke personally, and he said he is more than open to allowing parking in that lot if he can work with the city on it. The city hasn't, to this day, really worked with him on that, and that's a huge lot. And I'm sure there are many others like that. So there are other things we can do to really work on this issue. And I think that we've just got to take a community approach to it and take a common sense approach to it.
Okay, next up is Curt Samuelson. Parking and noise.
When I served on the planning commission, we talked about how nice it would be to have a parking problem in downtown Littleton. There was nobody in downtown Littleton. And we talked about doing a public-private partnership to build a parking garage down there. We talked about a lot of different options. Now we are finally getting to a point where we have some parking issues. We have to understand that there are parking lots available, and like downtown Denver, you can't park right in front of the location you want to go to. You're going to have to park 1 or 2 or 3 blocks away. I have a concern about the brewery on Littleton Boulevard and how they ever got that approved with 7 or 8 parking spaces, and there's 300 people that can park and go into that location. I'd still like to talk to whoever approved that fiasco. But I think there are things we can do, but with public-private partnerships joining together to allow for parking around the city. As far as noise, I think that's an enforcement issue. We need to enforce noise issues with making sure that the police are available and able to go out and contact people that are causing a lot of noise in the community.
Amanda Henderson.
I think we agree on many of those things. It's a great problem to have in downtown Littleton to have to park a block away. I heard someone say that they walk further when they go to Park Meadows Mall to get inside. So I think there's a little bit of perspective that we can't always just pull up right in front of the store that we want to go to, that sometimes we do have to walk a little bit, and there are places we just need to be more resourceful, talking to Reinke, utilizing the RTD lot, making sure there are clear pathways where people can cross from those areas. And Littleton Brewery, we were over there recently, and yeah, it's a mess. I can see why there's a lot of frustration from the neighbors and the community around there. It would be wonderful if there were lines on the street to at least mark where people's driveways are and where there are spots that are okay. The other place that I've seen a lot of the traffic issues is around the schools. We need better enforcement during those school hours to make sure that people aren't parking on the crosswalks where the children are trying to cross. And that also would be a place, as the Aladi corridor is built out, having lines for actual parking spots so it's not so chaotic. Noise, I agree. Enforcement, I hear these little dirt bikes jetting around all around, and I live kind of buried in, but I can still hear it on Santa Fe, Mineral. it feels like that would be something that the police can look at the patterns and we can encourage them to enforce.
Thank you. Kyle Schlachter.
Yeah, as far as parking, specifically downtown, the Littleton Downtown Development Authority has been conducting parking surveys to look to see where there is parking. There are lots of parking spots down there. We just need to have better wayfinding on where people can find those spots. As far as Ranke's lot, he owns that lot. He has parking right now. You just have to pay for it. He can certainly make it free parking if he wants. He does not need to work with the city at all. He could do what he wants with his parking lot. And so I think letting people know where the parking is available, because if you go to the city lot just 2 blocks north of Main Street, there's lots of parking. ACC has lots of parking. RTD has lots of parking. And I think dealing with parking, we also have to work with our state legislators, because sometimes when they're saying, hey, we want to get rid of all parking mandates, that's something that we use to address affordable housing. It's one of the incentives that we can provide developers. Say, hey, if you will put more affordable housing in, we will reduce your parking by a little bit, but still have it there. But when the state says, no, you can't do that, I have been in that room standing up for Littleton's Home Rule Authority to say, hey, this is how we are operating our community here. Please don't tell us how to manage it. As far as noise, that's enforcement. It's hard. We do have noise ordinances. Unfortunately, as cars go zipping down Santa Fe or Bowles at 50, 60 miles an hour, we can't have police every single spot in the whole city. We could have 1,000 police officers trying to get there. So we need to work to educate people about the noise ordinance, and also make sure when the police hear it, they do enforce those noise ordinances.
Thank you. Patrick Driscoll.
Yeah, thank you. This is obviously a hot button for especially the people around Littleton Boulevard, and one of the things I've talked to the city manager about is putting in permanent parking spots for those residents. I feel terrible that they have to deal with over there with walking a block or two just to get to their front door. So that will be one of the first things I'll do when I become mayor. I'm also on the Downtown Development Authority. We haven't started the study yet on parking. We've done plenty of studies on it. What I'd like to do is talk with the city and decide that after 5 o'clock in the evening, for those businesses to open up their lots. Chase Bank is a good example. If they allow us to do that, we'll help cover some of the insurance for any slip and fall cases, and we'll also help cover some of the upkeep of that lot. So that will help restrict or help improve some of the parking. Also, we've talked about running shuttles up and down Littleton Boulevard, Main Street over to Platte River Bar and Grill, over to Aspen Grove. That way people can park at ACC or park at the city building and feel like they can go out and still have a great time and not have to worry about the parking issues. Regarding noise, yes, absolutely big deal. We're talking to our city police about putting up cameras. I imagine there's some way we can also, with those cameras, speed cameras, we could also have something that goes along with noise that would pick up a certain decibel. So I'll look for some direction from the police on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Joel Zink.
Thank you. So one of the things that our city was only very recently able to do, our police department, was to actually get a parking enforcement officer. Like, that just didn't exist. That was not something that they were able to do, or not a person that they had on staff until extremely recently. One of the problems, though, and I know that there are people here in this audience who live behind Littleton Brewing. One of the problems is that that parking enforcement officer is one person, and they work roughly, a normal day shift. But what I've heard from folks is that most of these problems aren't happening, during the middle of the weekdays. They're happening after 5 p.m. They're happening on weekends. And so one of the things I think we ought to be looking at is figuring out a way to get another parking enforcement officer. But it's not just that, it's that people don't even know a lot of the times what the rules are on a street. Behind Littleton Brewing Company, they did finally get some lines painted for the driveways, but that's not enough. And I've heard that people are still not even listening to those or following those lines. So we really need officers to be proactively going up and down these specific streets where it's a really big problem, enforcing the law. On noise violations, we're talking about drag racing. I was on this Metro Street Racing Task Force. It's actually a huge problem. It's associated with drug running and gun trafficking. So there is a large-scale need to address street racing in Littleton, and it's a police issue as well, law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. David Carlton.
I think as far as areas around Littleton Brewery go, there needs to be better planning. You've seen that with a lot of projects. I'm seeing it with the Costco project. The developer is making decisions to close the road. The city council has not been proactive and involved in the planning process. And then also, once these projects get started, the parking around Littleton Brewery should have been worked out well before that project started. The neighbors should have been involved in that. So that was a big miss there at the current council. As far as downtown Littleton goes, myself, having lived in a lot of different large urban areas, some so large I didn't even have a vehicle. Littleton is great as far as downtown goes. You may disagree. So if there are disagreements there, I would be welcome for citizen input on how you improve it. But on a weeknight, go out to dinner with the wife, you can park right downtown. I think the business owners love that because it's accessible for a lot of people. They can pull right up, walk to a restaurant. Sometimes it's a block or two away, but it's pretty accessible. And then if it's not accessible there, it is just down the street. Being able to park at the train station for free is an awesome option. So as far as noise goes, as I mentioned before, I think we need some specifically devoted traffic officers that enforce these kinds of codes that are already on the books and already in place. I think that would go a long way.
All right, thank you. And we'll begin our next round of questions, and we'll start with Curt Samuelson. And then it will be Amanda Henderson, and then we'll go over here. If Amendment 3A passes, how will it impact the City of Littleton residents? Curt Samuelson, you're up.
That's the whole question. I think when 3A passes, it will reset the zoning back to January. The city council will have some work to do to relook at ADUs, because that will negate the ADU ordinance that they passed recently. So we'll have to look at that again. That would probably have to go back to the citizens to vote on the specifics of a new ADU. I think it's not going to affect homeowners much at all, because it will allow the homeowner to do what they could do today, what they could do last January, what they could do the January before that. There's very little change in this charter amendment that's going to do much to what people could do. This charter amendment came about because City Council was trying to overarching zoning on every lot in the city to allow for up to a fourplex on every lot. That's why this came about. So I don't think it'll do very much at all. It'll give City Council some more things to work on as far as ADUs. And then does the City Council push back on the state mandate for ADUs? That's a question for another day.
Thank you. Amanda Henderson.
So I think the first thing that the citizens will experience is a series of lawsuits from the state, because it's very convoluted, and I think that there are issues with conflicts with the state law, and so that will add a cost to the citizens of Littleton having to defend the measure. I also think it will end ADUs, and there's been some contrary statements about that, but I think it's pretty clear as it goes back to January 25 that it would end my opportunity to build an ADU as someone who lives south of Cayley. It would also make it very difficult and cumbersome to make any changes. You would have to have 2,000 signatures. You would have to go out and gather the voices in order to change anything in the land use code. So for me, it would restrict my freedom and the possibilities that I can use to get my land, and increases lawsuit fees.
Okay, Kyle Schlachter. Impacts of Amendment 3A passing.
Yeah, so it'll do a lot of things. First of all, it will remove residents' rights to build ADUs, because not everyone had a right to build a detached ADU as of January 1st, 2025. That is a pure fact, not an opinion. It will also lead to litigation. There will be residents that may want to sue the city. The state may want to sue the city. that 3A, while it's 4 simple sentences, it is internally in conflict with itself. The second sentence says it freezes it. Third sentence says you can change it if you do these things. Just because it's 4 sentences doesn't mean it's simple or a good idea. The 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was 3 simple sentences. It was prohibition. That was not something that was simple or easy or a good idea. It took 13 years for the country to realize that and change it, but that's an arduous task to change it. The other thing this will do, if it passes, it will end the conversation on land use in the city, because the city isn't going to spend a year or 2 years working through the process, taking up all of our staff's time on the hope that something passes on a vote. So there will be no land use changes in single-family residential zones if 3A passes. And finally, it'll send a negative message to the business community as well, because it'll say Littleton doesn't want new people here, doesn't want any changes. The Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce voted to oppose 3A, not the Littleton, the Denver Metro Chamber, because they realize it's not only bad for just Littleton, it's bad for the entire metro region because it puts a black mark on Denver whole area.
All right, Patrick Driscoll.
Yeah, the Colorado Municipal League has vehemently said that it does not approve the mandate that the state has tried to push through, Governor Pulse's mandate. So this idea that we're going to be stuck in litigation forever, I think is a little far-fetching. If the 7 cities that are suing the state over home rule and about the density issue prevail, which I believe they will, then I think a lot of this goes away quickly. So we're hoping to get an update on that soon. But let me just take a step back and explain how we got here. For 8 months, we talked about the missing middle, about the triplexes, duplexes. Yours truly was the only council person that continued to say it's not right for Littleton, not right for Littleton. I got shut down every meeting by our mayor because I was outnumbered. And we continued putting staff through the rigmarole of studying this more, and finally it came to first reading. Wouldn't you know, first reading on that was when I was out of town. And then second reading, obviously, the rest of the staff and mayor came to their senses, and we decided to vote to postpone indefinitely. But make no impact, I was the only council person that stood up and said, this is not right. And then I said, as a compromise, let's just put it on a ballot so people understand. And they were not willing to do that either. They wanted density in our neighborhoods, and I was so against it. Thanks.
Joel Zink.
Thank you. Well, what I think it will do is take away a freedom that if you are a homeowner in Littleton right now, you have. And that freedom is the freedom of being able to build an ADU on your property. And that's a freedom that I happen to like. Right? Like if my mom got sick, God forbid, I would want to be able to have her come up and live with us, but also maybe not like with us, right? Like it'd be nice for her to be able to have her own space too, to feel a sense of ownership over her own life while we can take care of each other. I lived in an ADU for 6 years before I moved to Littleton. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I became really great friends with the owners, lived in this cool historic home that was right next door. My wife Maddie and I, who's back there, we actually got married in the yard of that ADU. I want everyone in this city to have the same freedom too. If you don't want to build an ADU, you don't got it. But I want everyone to be able to have that ability and that flexibility to have that. If that's something you want, if that's what's going to help you, your family, if that's what's right for you. Or to be able to rent it out to one of our police officers or a teacher or a nurse or whoever needs it. So this will take away our freedom to have an ADU, and if anyone in the city has already taken any steps toward building an ADU on their property, which that's happened, they will have every right to sue the city, because we will have then taken away a right that they already spent money on and have acted.
David Carlton.
As I've walked and knocked on thousands of doors at this point and talked to hundreds and hundreds of people, I'm going to make a prediction for you after talking to all those people. And talking to those people, I'm doing it outside of a vacuum. I'm just meeting people for the first time. Some of them have no way 3A signs. Some of them have Zink signs. Some of them have Carlton signs. I'm going to tell you this 3A is going to pass. And for a contentious issue, it's not going to be that close. It's probably going to be high 50s, low 60s. That's the way the public feels about it. And the public feels that way about it because there was an overreach by the current council. Now, the ADU, as a council person, I would push, I think that's a good viable option for people. Having multi-generational options on the same lot with the same family is actually a good thing. And it's a good option for a lot of people. So I would work to, there's been some talk of joining the lawsuit and pushing back against the state on the ADUs. I would work out a compromise on that issue. But I'm going to tell you, on November 5th, the sun is still going to come up. We're still going to have development in Littleton. We're still going to have council people that will work really aggressively with builders and people that own property to try to come up with solutions. That's the kind of person that you need. Somebody that's willing to listen and then also go out on behalf of the citizens and come up with options that keep Littleton moving along. Thank you.
Merrill Stillwell.
Thank you. I understand the importance of your home. I know that when you bought it, that's probably one of your largest assets. And you bought it because of the neighborhood and the character of it, and it's important. I understand that, and I want to protect your home. I'm with you on that. That being said, with 3A, I think there's some unintended consequences that I have concerns about. Some of the other candidates have mentioned them with our legal issues. It's confusingly written. I've read it a few times, and it's still hard to totally understand all the implications. It also prevents us from making common sense moves. There's a proposed park I heard about off Broadway that's on residential land we wouldn't be allowed to do. I think we're going too far with this one, but in the end, this issue is going to be decided by you all, by voters, and it's separate from us as candidates. And I'm going to respect whatever you all decide. Thank you.
All right. I've been advised that the witching hour is upon us, and we'll go to closing
Can I do one?
Oh, I didn't mean that. Scratch that. We'll get that next. Darren Lemorande, my apologies.
So based on what 3A is, I think we really need to look at what it really says. It specifically says in it that it does not affect how you can use your land other than to be able to scrape your home and put a multifamily home on it. That is specifically stated in there. Now, the ADU discussion, that's quite frankly an unintended consequence of it because that passed after the charter was presented. I'm in complete agreement that we need to relook at that and revisit that, and that's something City Council will do, and that's something that we'll vote on in the future. I personally bought the house that I did because we had my father-in-law was sick, and we had planned on building an ADU there. That's the only reason we bought the house that we're currently in. Unfortunately, he passed away before we were able to get through the building process because the city took so long on it, which is a whole other conversation. But I think we really need to look at 3A as it protects our neighborhoods, and it does not allow us to put a multifamily home up anywhere. I don't want it next to me. I assume most people don't want it next to them. As far as the state mandate, that isn't really going to have a huge effect because that says specifically that it is along transportation corridors. We have commercial zone properties along transportation corridors. That doesn't mean we can't take a commercial property and turn it to residential, which will really help us on the affordability. All it is saying, and it's not saying you can't have dogs, you can't have chickens, you can't have any of that stuff. That's all misinformation about it. It specifically says you cannot scrape your home and put a threeplex, a duplex, or a triplex there.
Thank you. And now it's time. We will begin our closing statements, and each candidate has 1 minute for a closing statement. And we'll start this one with Joel Zink, and then do David Carlton, and then Merrill Stillwell, Darren Lemorande. And then Curt Samuelson, Amanda Henderson, and then our 2 mayoral candidates, Schlachter and Patrick Driscoll. So, closing statement, Joel Zink.
Thank you. I have spent my entire career working with victims of crimes, folks who are often at the worst day of their lives. Working with these folks as they gain the courage, including children, to go testify in court while the person who did something terrible to them sits right across the room from them, has been formative for me. And I've been in public service my whole adult life. And I take that really seriously. For me, it's a calling. And that's part of why I'm here. I want to take that skill set that I've learned over the last years of working with folks who are having a really, really hard time. And hopefully not any of you are having as hard a time as those folks. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I care really deeply about the individual problems that you're running into. One of my favorite things that I've been able to do while I've been on council so far was solve some really small, easy problems that I found out about from folks. Oh, wow, that was really fast. Anyway, I like solving small problems. Joel Zink, at large, please vote for me. I'd be honored to talk with you afterward. Thank you.
David Carlton.
Hopefully by now you've all gleaned that voting for any of us up here is not a terrible choice. I think we're all pretty committed. I think we're all committed to you and finding solutions for you. Joel, for example, has been on the council and done a fine job. The reason a lot of this came up was because I think the council lost its way a little bit in how they wanted, or a lack of wanted to involve the citizens. Some things have not been transparent. That's what I would promise. So I have a hard time being vain, but I guess to get the job I have to be a little bit about my background. I was a senior vice president of operations for a publicly traded company. I was in charge of the top line CapEx, capital expenditures. That's about 10 times the size of the Littleton budget. I'm excited to start looking at the budget and figuring out ways that we can be smarter with our money, reserve more. When you're 80% reliant on sales and use tax, you have to have council members that understand how to read and enact a budget. The other thing is motivation. I want to do this to serve and be transparent and be available for you. I want to give back. I have the time to do it, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Merrill Stillwell.
Thank you. My name again is Merrill Stillwell. I'm running in District 1. I'm a small business owner, a family man. I vote in every city election, and I'm really involved with the city. I've got a bias towards action. You know, when I heard about foster youth in trouble, I went out and helped start the program and raise the money for it. When I heard Dirt Coffee was in permitting troubles and they couldn't open up, I got to work and made phone calls to help them get through it. When my neighbors tell me about a pothole, I'm immediately going to see Quick Fix It and calling the city to help. I'm already out there doing the work for you. I care about it. I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to work hard. Thank you so much. My name again is Merrill Stillwell. I'm running in District 1.
Darren Lemorande.
So I think honestly, I'm the only person here who doesn't have the political background, and quite frankly, I'm only running to protect our city and to keep it the wonderful place that we grew up and love. I don't have any greater political aspirations. I'm literally here as a voice for the people and to support our community and to make sure people's voices are heard. I'm very data driven. I've got 3 girls in public schools. I want to make sure this community is safe for them. I want to protect Littleton. I want to preserve its community. I've got a business background, currently a small business owner. I've got a background in lean manufacturing, process management. I've worked in large manufacturing companies throughout the entire country. I know how processes work. I know how to streamline things, and I'll take that experience to City Council and make sure we run things as streamlined and smooth as possible. And most importantly, that your voices are heard and you're not glossed over on things.
Curt Samuelson.
Thank you. My background in residential lending, my long tenure in Littleton gives me a unique perspective on what a great city Littleton can be. I want to build on the values of this great city. A great place to live and work where we are accepting of residents of all backgrounds and abilities. I believe Littleton can be a better place to live in the future. It's important we make sound decisions about housing, about infrastructure, and about growth. And that is inclusive and transparent to everyone. I'm Curt Samuelson, and I'm asking for your vote in November to help me win this important race.
Thank you. And let's move to our mayoral candidates.
Sorry, it's Amanda's turn.
I do this at least once during a candidate.
I'm impressed. This is a lot to navigate. Hi, my name again is Amanda Henderson, and I am running District 3. And I am running because I love Littleton, and I want our community to have a bright, inclusive future where our children can thrive, where we have a strong economy and safe streets and homes for people from different ages and stages and walks of life. How do we get there? For me, it is the process that matters. It's not just what we do, it's how we do it. And my experience and my background means that I come to this work with heart-centered leadership, with integrity, clarity, an ability to listen to multiple perspectives, to find those shared values and points of connection so that we can together find paths forward to create and build and continue on this Littleton that we all love so much. So I'm asking for your support and your vote for a forward-thinking, inclusive, and lively Littleton.
And now, our two mayoral candidates to finish the night. Kyle Schlachter, we'll start with you.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank everyone in this room for coming here for showing an interest in our future. And I also want to thank all the candidates that are up here for going through this very arduous, long public job interview. This is my 4th campaign. I know it's not easy, so it's great that we have these people that want to step up for our community. The mayor is not a whole lot different than city council, but it's just slightly different. You want to have someone that, as your mayor, that knows how to run meetings, that knows our protocols, that knows the difference between a resolution and an ordinance, and that can work with our regional partners, that knows who to call at our General Assembly, at our governor's office, the town next door. And I've shown that these past 4 years as mayor that I have that ability, I have those connections, I am willing to listen to our community and act and respond, and I hope that you will decide to give me another chance at keeping this job. Kyle Schlachter, you can go to my website, kyleforlittleton.com, to read more about me and why I'm the best man for this job.
And Patrick Driscoll.
Thank you. You know, I got involved 8 years ago. I am the longest serving person on council. I'm the OG, the old goat on council. So I clearly understand the responsibility of being a mayor. Running a meeting, I've done that my entire career, setting agendas. I'm not that concerned about reaching out to the state of Colorado for their advice. I'm here for you, I'm here for Littleton, and I'm here for your concerns. So first and foremost, I'll reach out to you for advice before I reach out to the state. It's been an absolute pleasure serving you, and I hope I get a chance to do another 4 years. So on November 4th, my 2nd chapter begins. So I look forward to being of service. I'm a really good listener, and listen, vote for Driscoll, Mayor. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. I know that we have covered a lot of great topics, and we hope that you have gotten some information that you've been looking for. We know that a lot of your questions were not addressed, and we are sorry for that, but I hope you'll take some time to chat with the candidates afterwards. Please join me in a round of applause for all of our candidates. I think they did an excellent job, and I told them before we started that we would be looking forward to a good discussion. Campaign literature is available on the table out here.